Have we talked about this before? The can in your cupboard without the label on it.
The what now?
The can in your cupboard
Mm-hmm.
without a label on it. This
Right.
is my world.
Yeah.
Could be peaches, could be lunch meat.
Right. Hey, the mystery
no
box
idea.
could be a boat too.
What's that?
The mystery box could be a boat too.
Yeah, exactly. Or it could be like a goat eating the can without the label.
Right. Is there a wide receiver or two or three in this sort of chunk of, generally flat tiers of wide receivers that you're identifying as a guy that's a buy that you're going after this offseason? Or are you just like, hey, it's the offseason, there's not enough data or info to make moves on? Is there anybody that because I think for me personally, I'll say it's Pittman, it's Ayuk. I think in some leagues, Judy. It sounds like Sean Payton loves him. And then I think the value vets, if it makes sense for me, like Cup and Diggs and that sort of thing. And then guys, and Amari Cooper. And then guys, I tend to be like lower on than market that I might use in a trade to get those guys. Quentin Johnson, Chris Godwin, Terry McLaurin, Debo, DJ Moore. So yeah.
So I have found it pretty easy to get Christian Kirk.
Yeah.
Amari Cooper. Yeah, that's about it. I think that I've added as veteran wide receivers, I guess. Treylon Burks and Christian Watson are my number one sells in all of Dynasty football.
That's funny because a lot of people, it's like their number one buys.
Yeah, please get that treasure chest while you can, because both of those guys could be irrelevant this next year. Both.
But you're Mr. Lean into ceiling.
Plausible ceiling. I don't really see the percent chance of them hitting their ceiling as very high.
Okay. I said, well, that's where we disagree. And that's probably why I have him ranked higher than you do.
Right. I mean, Christian Watson was, by the numbers, Chase Claypool last year. From the eye test, real boom or bust. A lot of those long touchdowns were busted coverage.
Yeah.
He got a huge downgraded quarterback. The offensive line is aging. And I think Bakhtiari's hurt already. And I mean, it's just not a good situation. They could be the worst offense in football this year. I mean, I guess they have Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon to kind of keep them from being completely ridiculous. But I just don't see the ball going downfield in that offense. And so that's his whole game. Like I said, he's irrelevant this time next year. And Treylon Burks doesn't really even have a thing, right? He's just big and goes up and gets it. So he doesn't really separate. Well, he doesn't separate at all. He doesn't really have a lot of functional speed. He's slow, unpolished, with not the exceptional hands AJ Brown.
So these are two guys who going into rookie drafts, I was lower on than the market. Like post NFL draft, but going into rookie drafts, I was lower than the market on these guys. But I'm kind of with the market now. In that I'm leaning into the ceiling because I see the positive signs relative to other guys in that tier, like DJ Moore, who's a career wide receiver too. We kind of know what he is and who the hell cares.
I see it as a no-brainer that if you can get any of these wide receivers that we're talking about, like the veteran ones, any of them, Kirk, Ayuk, Deontay Johnson, Amari Cooper, Ridley, TMC, DJ Moore, Pittman, Hollywood. That's probably where I cut it off.
Yeah. Those guys are not.
If I could turn either of those into any of those established, like veteran, Ridley, did I miss him? Debo, JMO. If I can turn either of those guys into any of those guys, that's a win. It's a no-brainer. It's somebody that I already know is good in the NFL for somebody that probably isn't.
Well, I think I guess we disagree on the probably isn't. And I guess we
Right.
also disagree on, the idea of, I think I think it's also about like whose value might go up, and I
Mm,
think relative to whose value might go down, like Debo is a sinking ship right now.
sure.
And
Yeah, but all it takes is a good Debo season, and his ship is righted.
sure,
These
and,
guys
and
haven't had good seasons.
and I could be wrong. I could be wrong, and this time, next year, I'm
They're
like, what was I thinking?
yeah, their both of their value is way more volatile than any of the volatile is the word I was trying to say than any of these guys that I just mentioned.
With
None of these
Watson,
guys are going to spike or dip anywhere near what Watson and Burks will.
sure, but that's kind of what comes along with risk reward, like high ceiling players.
Sure, yeah, but if I like the player's chance of hitting that ceiling, there's it's not just how high the ceiling is; it's also the likelihood of hitting.
Sure, and I think I'm leaning into that. It's likely, right? Like I can put the pieces together where I say, yeah, I'm comfortable with that. It's not like I have a hell of a lot of like exposure, but like I'm definitely
Yeah,
more bullish on those two guys than
I've been getting out of those as best as I
because
as best I can, and right after that is Pickens, by the way. And
oh well, see now that's the thing. Like I regard Pickens in a much different light than I regard those guys.
see, I think the market has Pickens just slightly lower.
I think they're starting to sour on him a little bit. So
Could be. The problem with Pickens is uh, he's not suited for the offense he's in. He's not a separator, and he's not got a hyper accurate quarterback, which is what non separators need, right? So Pickett's going to have to make a lot of really difficult throws this year, and this in an offense that just is not interested in going downfield at all.
yeah, you know what? You're right. Like Watson is 20 on KTC. Watson's 22. Burks is 23, and Pickens is 28. And really, in ADP, they're real close too. And for me personally, so this is an example, right? When I see that ADP, when I see those rankings, and I regard the first two well above the way I regard Pickens, that's a situation where okay, I exploit that. That like that's
Yeah.
where I go in with Pickens and see what I can do to get those other guys, right? Because what I'm seeing is that people generally regard them pretty closely together, where I regard them very far apart.
Yeah, I saw it. Like if I were going to make the perfect trade, right, with Watson or Burks, I'd try to add a little something and get up to London.
Get up to
Drake London.
that's okay. No, that's a good guy to talk about. Let's talk about Drake London, right? Because all he needs, everything is there. All he needs is a little more volume, right? When you look at like analytics as far as like rookies who have done this, and that, they've all been like big hits in their careers, right? When we look at his target share, his targets per route run, when we look at like so, and all he needs is a little more volume. The question is going to be, are they going to pass it more, and will that volume be there with a healthy Pitts? Right. So some people are really making that bet that Drake London is the next big thing, and have him very similar to Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave. I am kind of in between, right? I kind of see him in the same light as he's in that 10 to 17 tier with the four old guys and Devonta Smith and JSN.
Yep.
Not quite.
He's 17.
Not quite yet for me with Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, because of that volume and because and actually what I read some interesting numbers that the data on his separation is based, that says it's bad separation, is based on yards of separation per target, and that's actually a bad data point to use because there's still too much noise of quarterback play in that. And when you look at like next gen stats or like ESPN's open score, he looks a lot better. And when you look at like reception perception, he looks better. So, I like London as a good second year wide receiver, but I'm kind of in between the people who are like, his value is too high. He's not going to produce. They're going to run the ball all the time. I'm between those guys, those people, and the people who are like, we should not be valuing him any different than we value Chris Olave or Garrett Wilson and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. He doesn't have the quarterback play, at least perceived. And like you said, the volume, we all think that Arthur Smith's going to run the shit out of the ball. He spent a 6 overall pick on a running back. Yeah, I don't expect him to get the volume. It's, at least not this year. Who knows what they'll do at quarterback? Because if Ritter's not good enough to support the offense, they'll replace him.
Thing is, though, like I know that teams can do all sorts of things, but they're not going to be bad enough to be in on Caleb Williams and Drake. Well, from what we think is going to be Caleb Williams and Drake May later on, a year from now. Like
no, but there were upgrades over Desmond Ridder available, on the open market this year. Carr, Jimmy G. Not that they're any great shakes, but Carr would probably be good enough to get Drake his volume. If you think that offense is, I mean, no offense in the NFL runs more than it passes anymore, right? They all pass more than they run.
Right. So when we say run heavy, it's like, 42% instead of like,
yeah, exactly. Right. So it should be able to support 2 targets with a Derek Carr level quarterback, right?
Well, that's what some people are saying no. Some people are saying, listen, you either got to choose Pitts or London this year because both of them ain't happening.
Interesting. I have them both on one team. We'll see what happens.
I like both of them. I think I lean into Pitts a little more, as just a unicorn at the position. And when I look at like when they were both healthy, the air yard share and stuff like that that Pitts had, and just the slight variance in touchdowns in his rookie year we'd be thinking about Pitts in a lot different light than if he's just scored a couple more touchdowns in his rookie season. So I kind of am leaning into that more than I'm leaning into London, but I also am above some other people on London.
Yeah, trying to choose between Pitts and London is a little like, I guess trying to choose between if you're Mr. and Mrs. Thompson and you're trying to choose between Amen and Oris. You know what I mean? You have no idea what I'm talking about. I love the look on your face. I thought I'd stump you with that one.
Something is
the only 2 twins to ever be drafted in the top 5 of the NBA draft happened this year.
Oh, basketball doesn't count, especially in 2023. Doesn't even exist. It's not a sport.
Amen Thompson and Oris Thompson. But it's like
any sport that pays Fred VanVleet $30 million a year is irrelevant to me.
VanVleet's a good little player, but yeah, $30 million is a little much.
I'm looking at I don't know shit about shit with basketball anymore. But I look at some of these numbers and I'm like, wait, that guy's worth $30 million? Like
so in that series where the double doink where anyway, Sixers Toronto, they kept saying Fred VanVleet, and I didn't really know who he was. But I didn't, to the point where I didn't even know what the hell they were saying. I'm like, who's VanVleet? What are Flanfleet? What are they saying? And I refused to Google it. I had to it's one of those things I had to figure it out on my own, and it took me a while. VanVleet, but it did not sound like that. Anyway, back to football. No, but my whole point is, if you're the parents of 2 amazing level twins, who do you choose? Maybe dad goes to Amen's camp and mom goes to Oris camp, but that's trying to choose between Drake London and Kyle Pitts.
Yeah. I still think that in 2023, that is probably only one of them is going to be like, yes, he hit. I'm glad I had him.
Yeah.
I don't, but good luck guessing which one at the moment, right?
But I think that they both have the chance to be like, all right, that's cool. That's a good year.
Yeah.
No panic button. I think they probably both, like, I don't think either one of them is going to lose value. Pitts has already lost so much value. It's going to be tough anyway.
People are really like, whew, yeah.
Dummies.
All right. So we want to play a little Would You Rather?
Sure.
All right. Would you rather Jalen Waddle at the 207, Devontae Adams at the 411, or Jerry Jeudy at the 507?
Adams. But Jeudy and Adams are pretty close. Waddle's just way too high.
The thing is, I love Jalen Waddle, but when I look at 207 versus what I can get elsewhere,
yeah.
JMO at the 611 or Christian Kirk at the 805?
I think I got to go with Kirk.
And you and I like JMO more than everybody else.
Yeah, I love JMO, but there's too much uncertainty to not go with a much safer player 2 rounds later.
Here's one for you. This hits home. Devonta Smith is going off the board at wide receiver 11 in ADP at the 311. Debo at the 511. Dotson at the 709.
I'll take Devontae.
I might. It's tempting to wait 4 rounds and take Dotson, but
then maybe not even get a guy that you can start.
Yeah. Because there is Howell. There is just in general, the offense not as good as the Eagles, right?
Right.
And probably, Smith more talented. So, yeah.
Right.
You're in the mid to late 3rd round. Are you going T. Higgins or Stephon Diggs?
Excuse me, sorry. It's probably going to depend on what the rest of my team looks like at that point. Like T. Higgins is a rock solid number 2 wide receiver forever. That's kind of how I look at him. He's not. He might have a spike year where he hits, wide receiver 9 or something like that. But in general, he's going to be like wide receiver 15 every year. That's how I see him. Diggs is like wide receiver 2 or 3 for like 2 more years.
One maybe injury to Jamar Chase, though. I mean, not that you bake injury into it,
didn't Chase miss 3 games last year?
But when they're the same price and Higgins has that many years on Diggs,
didn't Chase miss 2 or 3 games last year?
I think so.
Yeah, and I mean Higgins had good games and all, but he didn't spike that much.
So what I'm seeing in startup drafts is I think there's guys that are inflated in like round 2. Kind of 3. I'm seeing some sanity-ish in round 4. But then, there's guys in the 5-6 range that are like, I'll pass when I can get other guys in the 8, 9, 10. So let me be more specific, right? In the 5th round are guys like Christian Watson, Quentin Johnson, Jordan Addison, Jerry Jeudy, Michael Pittman, DJ Moore, and Deebo Samuel. In the 8th round is Amari Cooper, Christian Kirk, Deontay Johnson, who big buy for me, Deontay. And then a little before that, Calvin Ridley, Godwin, and McLaurin. And then if I wait even later, I'm getting Bateman in the 10th round, Mike Williams in the 10th round. In the same round as Mingo, right? And then
one thing sticks out to me though.
Right.
the combination of could be getting a wide receiver one is still very young and is going in the 5th round really is attractive to me with Jerry Jeudy. It smacks of Cooper Kupp when Stafford went to the Rams. It's like a good wide receiver that is now going to take a leap. Now, Judy's not as good as Kupp was at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, you don't expect Jeudy to now be Triple Crown winner. But I do expect him to take, like, that big of a leap.
Yeah. And, people are really calling for a Jeudy breakout this year.
Yeah.
I'm kind of in between. There's people who just don't like Jeudy at all. And there's people who like Jeudy as much as you do. I'm kind of in between on that one. But like he's going the same round as Quentin Johnson. Like, come on, folks, what are we doing here? You know?
That's crazy.
But people love Quentin Johnson. They're really leaning into the ceiling the way that I am with Watson and Burks. Okay. So you're in the startup draft, right? Do you want a combination of DJ Moore at the 5'10" and Miles Sanders at the 7'11"? DJ Moore and Miles Sanders.
Pre-meh.
Or Pollard at the 504 and Amari Cooper at the 803.
Yeah, I think I like the second one.
Right? And that's what we're talking about. Wait a little bit in that 8th, 9th round, you're getting some good wide receivers, right?
Pollard in the 5th, huh?
Yeah.
That's great. That's very surprising.
That's going to go up. And that's at RB 14, by the way.
Huh. I mean, I guess I can't argue RB 14. Where do I have him?
I think I have him at like 10.
I have him 13.
Yeah.
So yeah, wide receivers are definitely getting pushed up in startups.
So wait for the value in those
yeah.
So like here's the thing. There's two ways for me when I'm thinking about value just off the top of my head in startup drafts. Within the same round, right? Like, a Diggs versus a Higgins, right? Or something like that, right? But then also like, why take this guy in the 5th when I can get this guy in the 8th? Right. And that is, I think, really where you're also going to find some value. You're in the startup draft. Would you rather leave with Tyreek, Hawkinson, Dobbins, and Russ? Or Gibbs, Danny Dimes, Treylon Burks, and Freiermuth?
The first one by a lot.
You hate Burks, so that's kind of baked into that, right?
But also the difference between Hawk and Pat is huge.
Right. And so these are combinations that you can come out of a draft with. They're all like similar, like ADP combinations, right? So Trevor, Josh Jacobs, and your choice of QJ or Addison. Or Lamar, Eckler, and your choice of Pittman or DJ Moore.
Give me the first one again.
Trevor, Josh Jacobs, and your choice of QJ or Addison. Lamar, Eckler, your choice of Pittman or DJ Moore.
That was hard. That's really hard. I think I'm going with the first one because I like the third player better. The second one with Lamar because I like the third player better.
Yeah, me too. And I would go with the second one as well. And to me, the difference between the two is the value you're getting at the third spot, at that wide receiver spot, right?
Yeah.
So a couple more. I know you're getting tired. For the startup, would you rather have, this is a good one, Bryce, who's going high, going like late second, DK, Goddard, and a meh running back, Rachaad White, Cam Akers. Bryce, DK, Goddard, Rachaad White, or Akers. Pitts, Javonte, Cousins, Goff, Christian Kirk.
Who's the quarterback in the first?
Bryce, DK, Goddard, and then Rachaad White or Akers. Or spend that second, third round pick on Pitts, pick up Javonte in that fifth-ish round. Sixth round, you're getting Cousins or Goff, and then Kirk in that eighth round range rather than Rachaad White or Akers.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess the second one.
All right. And
I hate the Cousins Goff thing, though. I'm not big on that. They both have a 1 or 2 year window.
I think Goff has a longer window, but
he does, but not necessarily in that offense.
Oh, for sure in that offense.
You think they're going to extend him?
Oh yeah, I think he's going to get maybe a shorter contract than some of these or a cheaper contract than some. But yeah, I think he's getting an extension. Yeah, I think he's going to get between a Geno and a Danny Dimes. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, if that's the case, then I'm much higher on Goff then. I like Cousins. Don't get me wrong, Cousins a QB1, but for how long?
Well, and to me, the question is in that scenario, I can wait 3 or 4 rounds and get that quarterback and that wide receiver and invest in that unicorn tight end up top and a risk reward running back, right? Because if it's super flex and you're asking me in that first scenario to spend a late second on Bryce, and then by the time we're in the 5th, 6th, 8th round, it's Goddard, Rachaad White, and Akers instead of Cousins and Kirk.
Yeah. That one's tough.
Yeah.
I also really like Pitts to gain a lot of value.
I think we tend to like Pitts more than a lot of other people. Okay, last one. We're going to do it a different style here. Fields versus Herbert.
Herb.
Okay. Ramondre versus Najee.
They're close, but I guess Najee.
Okay.
Just because I think he's a better. No, I'm going Ramondre.
Okay. Your choice of London or Cup. Doesn't really matter which one. Just pick one.
All right, Cup.
Okay. Or your choice of J-Mo and Pickens.
J-Mo.
Okay, so would you rather have Cup or J-Mo?
Cup.
Okay. And then finally, Evan Ingram versus Chig.
Ingram.
Okay, so you chose 3 out of the 4 players in that first scenario. So all you would have to do is sacrifice Herbert for Fields, and then you get 3 of the guys you like more than the other guys. And I would argue that there's value at the wide receiver position there, because if you can get Kupp only 1 round ahead of Pickens, or 2 rounds ahead of J-Mo, it's probably a better investment.
Yeah.
So I know you're tired. The bottom line here is that in every one of these scenarios, I believe you chose, and I would agree with most of your choices, the scenario where the value was at the wide receiver position relative to what you're spending up for the other wide receiver.
Gotcha.
And I think that's kind of the name of the game now. If you're in startups now, before these running backs prices are going to go up, let people take Waddle and Amon-Ra in the second round, and then you take Diggs and Kupp and well, you don't like Burks, but Christian Kirk, Deontay Johnson, who we didn't talk about much,
Amari Cooper, the quietest wide receiver 1 in the world.
Right, exactly. You know what I mean? And then so get other positions that have studs there, and take the value at wide receiver, because that's where it is right now. Later on in the offseason, as those running backs creep up, some of those top tier wide receivers will go down, but like the value between them and the other guys, I don't think it's really going to be that big a deal as it is now. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like, so I don't know. I don't know if that makes sense, but all right, let's land this plane. Please subscribe, rate, and review. Please make sure you show some love to the YouTube channel. We're going to be pumping that up a little bit. I post the clips of the show in segments there, and Jesse's maybe going to be doing some prospect videos for the YouTube channel as well. Jesse, tell us about where we can find you in DWZ and all that jazz.
Yes, subscribe to Dynasty Warzone Network, and you'll get Dynasty War Games. It's been me solo lately, Han Solo, Case Solo, Solo Cup, as I say. I've done a couple of series. Actually, right now I'm in the middle of doing year 2 positional player breakout scores. But Chad and Mike will be back, my podcast co-hosts, within the next week or two, and we'll get back to playing games and determining player values, pinpointing player values, that kind of thing. So just subscribe to the DWZ Network and you'll find us. We will be coming out on Mondays. I think it's going to be how it's going to go.
All right. You can find me on Twitter at ffjunkie_. Goingfor2.com, articles and rankings. Saturday nights do Dynasty Saturday Night 5 with Going for 2 on their YouTube channel, 7:30 Eastern. Doing a little bit for RPO. I only did a couple of videos for them. I want to be adding some stuff to that. I had a lot of life stuff come up, so I don't know if I'm going to be doing that running back series until like August now. But yeah, check us out on YouTube and stuff at Dynasty Fever Pod on the Twitters. That's a wrap. Thanks for listening. Etienne is overrated.